I tell you, if it doesn't bite you, electrocute you, sting you, then it doesn't belong here. Welcome to the jungle.
This is Steve Townsend, a Brit who lives in Portugal but who's addicted to fishing in the Amazon. On one of his recent trips, he met this man, Paul Rees. Paul is not only a keen angler, but he's also a highly respected academic and a leading fish expert who's conducted extensive research in the rivers of the Amazon basin. When they met, Paul invited Steve to go fishing with him, which is why, right now, Steve is boarding a float plane which will take him from the Brazilian city of Manaus deep into the Amazon jungle to the upper stretches of a river called the Travessão.
The man's telling me to get on, so I'm on.
Today, Steve's joined by a group of 7 other anglers from America who are as passionate about this place as he is. Sandwiched between impassable waterfalls and a protected Indian reservation, the Travessão is remote even by Amazon standards. It was not until 2007 that, after having spent many years gaining the trust and obtaining special permission from the local tribes, that Paul, together with his colleague, a man named Wellington Mello, mounted an exploratory trip to the area. And since then, only a select handful of anglers have experienced this truly unspoilt wilderness. And with fishing to match these enigmatic surroundings, it's not hard to see why people like Steve and Paul have fallen in love with the place.
We've now arrived at the Travessão, and look at this spectacular place. There's rocks everywhere, there's rapids, there's inlets coming in, cascading over, there's birds everywhere, there's tall trees. I'm expecting to see monkeys any minute now as well. It's just an absolutely fantastic place, and here we are. I just feel so great to be here.
When it comes to fishing in the Amazon, Paul Rees is like a walking encyclopedia. 15 years of study and exploration in the region has made him a leading expert, and his ongoing work with the University of Amazonas and Brazil's National Institute for Amazon Research has yielded valuable new information on fish species. Paul has been able to marry a love of sports fishing with his passion for conservation by forming a rather special sports fishing tour company, Acute Angling. Together with his Brazilian business partner Wellington Mello, he works in close cooperation with indigenous populations, using sports fishing in a way that turns responsible tourism into a conservation tool. But the journey has not been easy. His partner Wellington first spent 15 years gaining the trust of the local tribes.
Tell me more about the involvement of Acute Angling and the people involved in what you're doing here and the camp. The creation of the camp and the creation of really what is basically a sport fishing expedition here.
Steve, this is a thing that I've always dreamt of spending time in the Amazon, and I've had the incredible privilege of spending a decade and a half here. And I've reached a point where I'd like to give back, if that makes sense to you. And the only way I can see to give back, because I don't have the billions of dollars it would take to protect the region at the level of a non-governmental organization, but what I have 2 pieces that I can sort of contribute to what's going on here. One, I have the ability, because I have the access through Acute Angling, I have the ability to do research here that would be otherwise very expensive, very difficult to do. I'm in places that mounting an expedition to would be extremely expensive. I'm here. So we're doing the research in conjunction with Rutgers University, where I'm completing a doctorate now, and in conjunction with INPA in Manaus and the University of Amazonas, we have several projects going on to elucidate the life history of these fishes, to understand better when they migrate, if they migrate, when they spawn, how they spawn, what's the relationship between one species and another. With this information, we have the means to give governmental organizations and management entities the ability to conserve these fishes and to make the right rules and to make things work. The second piece needs to be to make it visible, to make it understandable that commercially harvesting these fish in a predatory fashion has very little value. They have the value of the fish in the marketplace. But the fish swimming in the water it has been proven many times that a fish swimming in the water has roughly 200 times the value of a fish on a block of ice.
But it's sustainable. I mean, that's the thing. It's year and year and year. It's catch and release.
Exactly.
But how can we help? How can we as sports fishermen help to keep this going?
Well, it's important that we recognize that the people in the region have the right to prosperous life and a right to good health and a right to all the things that they want, that all of us want as human beings. And so for them to understand that a sustainable harvest is better than cutting down those trees and selling them tomorrow. You know, I'm not good at old saws, but there's one that says, give a man a fish, you feed him for a day. Teach a man to fish, you feed him for a lifetime. Here, what we're trying to show or trying to do is to let the locals understand that the benefits to them are so far greater, and they become fiercely protective of their region. They'll never let you cut down the trees because it'll put sediment in the water, and the sediment will damage the fishery, and the fishery is where their revenue comes from, and this is becoming understood. These two pieces together, the ability to manage the fishery and the ability to maintain sustainability, are a way in which a person without billions of dollars can contribute towards protection of this region as a whole, so that my grandson can come here in 20 years and enjoy it the way I have. This was a place, I came to this place to fish, and I was the one who got caught. This is an extraordinary place.
So Paul, we've got two main Grand Slams here. We've got our lures and predatory fish, and then we've got our catfish. So give me the list. Lures and predators.
Well, the lures and predators, we have to start with the most famous of them all, which is a peacock bass. And their powerful strikes and their tackle-busting antics is what probably makes the peacock the first one we would think about. The most powerful overall fish we have here is a payara. They grow enormous. They have stamina that's beyond belief, and they spend a lot of time in the air, which is obviously something fishermen enjoy. We've got the trairão, which will bully its way into your heart. The trairão is a unique fish here. It's sort of a subterfuge fish. He tries to sandbag you. He'll kind of hijack your lure when you least expect it. But once you're hooked in, you realize what kind of power they have. They're a wonderful fish, and they grow very large as well. And finally, to me, the capstone of a Grand Slam here is the bicuda, because they're elusive, they're difficult to get, and the bicuda in this river are the biggest bicuda I've ever seen anywhere, bar none.
And of course, we've got the catfish Grand Slam. So tell me about these. We have
4 of the greatest species here. I would start out with the junjia. Terrific fighter, nice sized fish, well into the 20-pound class, and you put them on the hook, and you're going to get a strong fight. And we move on to the surubim, bigger cat, gets up to close to 50 pounds. It'll take a lure, it'll take a cut bait, and that thing will run like a striped bass.
That's the shovel nose.
That's a shovel nose.
Right.
From there, the pirarara is the next larger fish that we encounter here, and we've encountered them over 90 pounds.
That's the red tail.
That's the red tail. And red tail, it's a bottom hugger, but when you put them on a hook, it feels like a race car. And if you've got a big fish and you're not geared up properly, you can watch your line disappearing into the sunset. Finally, the ultimate catfish is the piraiba. It's a catfish that we have caught here over 300 pounds. We have the world's record here. We have the largest catfish ever caught on rod and reel. The piraiba is a capstone to the Catfish Grand Slam.